Enola Holmes! Yay! I think it's working.
Yay!
Yay!
Yeah. Who's Enola Holmes?
I don't know. I've got no idea, but I'm hoping that the audio's working because it wasn't for a minute and then it was.
Yes, welcome to the wild, wild world of podcasting and live streaming in the digital age.
Yes, absolutely.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah, and then we go back.
All around. It's
There
been,
we go.
Super support.
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate the
reason that
positivity.
Yeah, Quinny's doing it. Quinny's hosting this week for the first time. He's going to go great. It's all going to be real good.
You're doing great, sweetie.
Thanks, Mum.
We have gone to the technical difficulties.
I did that for a second for humour's sake.
Just for the hell of it.
Yeah. Because I thought it'd be funny.
But mainly because I have a 92% likelihood that I will drop out of this stream at some point during the time because I don't have the internet in my house yet. So, I mean, I do. I've got something. I'm obviously here. But,
well, clearly.
Yeah. It'll be fun, yeah.
Yes, it's all going to be fine. Everything's going to be great because we're going to have a wonderful time. And if we don't, then the podcast will come out anyway on Thursday.
Fine.
That's pretty much it.
Anyway. Who are you?
Me? I'm terrified.
Yes.
I'm terrified. I'm crapping myself.
You're paddling.
Yes, I'm very calm on top, but underneath. And I'm also Quinny, so hi.
Hi.
Hi, Quinny.
And you on that side or that side. Who are you? It's you, Beck.
You have no idea where we are.
Yeah.
In relation to you. Every week.
Quinny, you're in the top right-hand side.
Yes, I know.
You're in the top left-hand side. Peter, you're in the bottom left-hand side. Dion and I'm the bottom right-hand side. So if I look up like this, I go, yeah, you're like sucked in. It's your turn to get
yeah, you can have all the pain and terror. And if I look that way, I look at Beck and go, hi, how you doing?
Hi, I'm okay. How are you? You doing all right? You're a bit blurry.
Your face is a bit blurry.
You good? Well, no. Yeah, okay.
And Peter, how are you down there?
I'm great. As great as we all can be at the moment.
Yeah.
Doing pretty good.
Yeah. You
Doing some good Netflix.
I'm doing relentless positivity at the moment just to try to counteract anything else that's coming through. So I'm great.
Good.
This stream's great. You're all great. You're all excellent people.
Everything's great.
Everything's going to be amazing.
Yes, there's going to be no problems. Everything's going to go flawlessly, just like the start of this stream. Flawless.
Certainly, there was no problem with mics coming on or weird stuff or anything. That's great.
Fuck it, man. That's boring stuff.
Anyway, so what are we talking about today? What is our film that we are reviewing?
No.
Really?
We're doing Enola Holmes a Court. No, just Enola Holmes.
That is a very niche joke.
Yeah, I know. Have you met me? Like, I just make bad jokes, and someone else goes, I don't get it. And then
one person at the back of the audience goes, huh.
Not even. They just go,
Oh.
Yes.
Yes, we're doing Enola Holmes, the Netflix I was going to say pre-made. No, the Netflix packaged Millie Bobby Brown vehicle to update and reinvigorate the Sherlockian myth for a new generation, much like...
Not sure that's the point of it, but okay.
Much like Crystal Pepsi updated the Pepsi drinking generation of the 80s to that new fun stuff. Enola Holmes has come along to refresh and entice a brand new generation of people into the world of Sherlock Holmes.
I'm sorry, are you trying to say that Enola Holmes is the taste of a new generation?
No,
Good.
I'm making a weird allegory between Enola Holmes and Crystal Pepsi.
When we're talking about niche comedy, there you are.
It doesn't work.
No. No.
Please, someone else.
So yes, we are talking.
Right.
Yes, Anne.
Enola Holmes is a movie based on a children's book by the same name, which is actually a series of books. And they are written about Sherlock and Mycroft's little-known younger sister, Enola, which is alone spelled backwards.
Aww.
But fun fact, her name is she's named after a town in the US. She's not actually just named because it's alone spelt backwards.
Oh.
Yes.
I've never heard of these books at all.
It's written by Nancy Spicer, who is who is an American. So it is not taking on the literary Arthur Conan Doyle sort of stuff.
Which is... Sorry?
I mean, it is like you can't do Sherlock Holmes and not be taking on Arthur Conan Doyle just because you're American. That's not how that works.
Kind of.
I'm in a different country and I'm going to invent this character called Sherlock Holmes and his brother Mycroft. And
He's mine now.
Yes.
Though, funnily enough, I was reading about some of the licensing stuff that goes along with Sherlock Holmes, and I mean, normally IP infringement and licensing is the least interesting thing you can talk about, but this stuff I found actually surprisingly entertaining. So, there were two different periods of time that people were writing Sherlock Holmes. There was early Sherlock Holmes and later Sherlock Holmes, and there was also a period where he was written by somebody else. Like the last couple of Sherlock Holmes stories were written by somebody else entirely. And depending on which ones you're looking at is whether or not they're still in copyright and whether they still the license is still owned by the Arthur Conan Doyle estate. And it depends on the characteristics of Sherlock Holmes himself as to whether or not your thing's going to be infringing on copyright or not. So if your version of Sherlock is a prick and doesn't like people, you can probably get away with it. If he's slightly avuncular and he likes dogs, that means that he's actually from the later ones and you can't use that version of Sherlock.
Yes, and in this one, there has been some mention, there is a bit of controversy on the whole estate thing because they think that he's too nice.
So, which being the case,
nice.
He's from the later writer and therefore still within copyright and therefore, fuck those guys.
He's emotionally accessible. So therefore, I would give them some money.
Fair enough too. But yes,
surprisingly works out a lot.
The young, some of those suits barely fit him. It's what you get for having a Witcher as your Sherlock Holmes.
Yes.
Standing Mycroft next to Sherlock, and you're like, this is not the same genetics, guys.
No. No, I'm pretty sure that the mother may have had something on with the milk boy or something like that, if that's the case.
Or the person who plows the field by hand.
Yes.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So the books that this is based on are obviously children's books, so they are not written like the classic Sherlock Holmes stories that we're used to. But they do introduce Enola and make the sort of female detective thing very accessible to children in much the same way as some previously well-loved detective heroines that I'm sure many of us grew up with, particularly if we grew up of the female persuasion.
Are we talking Nancy Drew here? Or is there someone
Nancy
a little
Drew.
bit...
There's quite a few of them, actually. And it's quite a common, an interestingly common theme within books for young women who... it's not just fairy tales. The whole detective theme is quite a common one to come across.
It is, isn't it? Now that you mention that, I'm like, oh yeah. There's like the teenage female detective is a full trope unto itself.
Yeah.
Did you ladies have favourites of those growing up?
I never really read Nancy Drew. I don't have any kind of popping to mind. The detective-y stories I read as a kid were like, the Fantastic Five and stuff like that. It was all Enid Blyton, which I can't remember exactly, but to memory, the girls probably weren't doing the hard yards.
There were lashings of ginger beer. I do know that, like lashings of ginger beer and lots of nice fizzy pop.
Yeah, and pop biscuits.
I remember ones like Penny from Inspector Gadget.
Yeah.
That counts.
Yeah, so Penny from Inspector Gadget. I think Kim Possible definitely counts.
Yeah.
Or Velma from Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
Who else was the kind of sort of detective child?
Harriet the Spy is another popular one.
Yeah.
Harriet's the one that I thought of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's quite a few of them, genuinely. And I think that what's really, really nice about this is that we're seeing kind of the sister of someone who is really well known in our popular culture. So well known, in fact, that you don't even have to have read or seen any of Sherlock's stories in order to know the name. And it's actually like become its own phrase unto itself. Saying no shit, Sherlock is like everyone knows that. You don't even need context for it anymore.
It's almost become its own verb. Like, if you've Sherlocked something, you've found something out. It is a cultural touch point.
Definitely.
Which I think is, it's lovely to then look at that and go, okay, what's a new exploration of it? Because it's not like we haven't had Sherlock explored significantly in recent years.
Through every orifice, yes.
Wow.
Probed deeply.
Sherlock is like every couple of minutes a Sherlock rehash, or not rehash, but a Sherlock thing comes out. What have you had? Like Young Sherlock Holmes Chronicles?
Oh man, I fucking loved Young
Isn't
Sherlock
he
Holmes.
famously the most depicted fictional character on screen?
Really?
Yes,
Yeah.
because he's out of copyright infringement. Apart from the later
Guinness
ones.
World Record. See, this is quick Googling from my part. Says that Sherlock Holmes has been depicted on screens 254 times.
Holy shit.
Who's the best Sherlock?
Basil Rathbone.
Basil Rathbone.
No, like most people, when they think of Sherlock, up until about the mid-90s or thereabouts, you mentioned Sherlock and everybody had a particular picture in their head, which was this sort of side-on thing with a very pointy nose and not much of a chin and the deerstalker cap and the pipe. And that version of it is pretty much the Basil Rathbone version from, the 60s and 70s, I think. He was kind of the Sherlock for a very long time. Now...
Yeah. Now it's
else?
Cumberbatch.
Bandersnatch?
It just is. Like,
Cumberland's
sorry, RDJ, but I think Cumberbatch has taken that from you.
Yeah. Did we like the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlocks?
I did. They were terrible and fun.
Yeah, well, they were
they're
fun.
fun.
They were fun,
Yeah.
fun, forgettable movies.
Yeah.
Whereas Cumberbatch has really, he kind of run with the character, and he got more time with the character as well. He was doing series, not just a film, and quite. I mean, it was good. It was a good series. I admit to not watching the most recent series that came out, but a very enjoyable character depiction, I thought. But now Henry Cavill is my Sherlock.
So, okay, let's talk about the Superman in the room.
I feel like they did a really beautiful thing with this movie, which would have been very easy not to do, especially when you've got a character like Sherlock and you've got an actor like Henry Cavill playing him. It would have been very easy to make this movie very Sherlock focused, and they didn't. And I am forever grateful for that. It was a good choice. Good choice.
He didn't steal any scenes either. He was the appropriate amount of
Present.
Actually, I'm a minor character in this film, and I'm going to pop in and impart unnecessary wisdom and then pop out
It's part
again.
of every English actor's repertoire to have at least been in a Sherlock production of some sort.
Yeah.
And Henry Cavill was just ticking boxes like, yep.
I do
was
like
thinking
that.
I was Sherlock.
I do like that you mentioned that the wisdom was unnecessary, particularly seeing as he is depicted, Sherlock in this movie. For those of you who haven't seen it, Sherlock definitely exists and is definitely a well-known detective by the time that this movie even starts.
Though it's pre-Watson.
It's pre-Watson. So all of the information that we have on Sherlock is from collected news articles about his feats, the things that he has solved. But he is still relatively, not feats, Feats.
Getting into the Victorian era. Ooh, I've got a sketch of your ankles, Mr. Holmes.
Why are you pronouncing it Holmes with an L? It's doing my head in.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I also want to point out that this movie was co-produced by Millie Bobby Brown, so it's got a wonderful female backing behind it, which is excellent.
Yeah, I really enjoy the fact that yes, they've got somebody in there who is charismatic as fuck to be Sherlock, but also not such a big deal. And let me tell you, very rarely would I have actually gone, Henry Cavill as being charismatic as fuck. Up until now, he's kind of been, yes, he's very pretty to look at, but my, what a lovely piece of acting wood he is. And in this one, I kind of went, oh, well, he's actually quite avuncular and pleasant and nice and...
You dick.
I think in this he got to play himself a little bit. Rather, because he does tend to be cast as quite stoic characters.
But didn't you like Man from U.N.C.L.E.?
I haven't watched it.
I haven't seen it.
Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, so there's homework.
Anyway, I think I quite liked, he fit the role well as the charismatic big brother because, if you have an older sibling who, you may be familiar with the concept that a youngest child can be overshadowed by one's siblings, and it's kind of hard to get out of that shadow. And I think that it was quite nice that, sorry, my house is collapsing.
I appreciated your desire to keep going. Like the face stayed on.
I tried to keep going.
It was so good. You're like, there was this glazed over kind of like, no, it's fine. Just going to reach out of frame and yes.
Sorry.
You were saying.
Lovely sibling relationship between Enola and Sherlock, and that's kind of what I liked about it. He is the better known big brother, but ultimately for us as the audience, Enola was allowed to shine.
Yes, and I think that one thing that kind of sat a bit wrong with me was how close their relationship seemed to be, given that they did not know each other. You can't just put two people in a room and say, well, you're brother and sister, so you're going to get along. That's not how people work. Like, no. So to give those who may not have seen it yet a bit of context, we start with the wonderful Enola, the younger sister of Mycroft and Sherlock Holmes.
The other guy.
Yeah, who has been left by her brothers, and her father has passed away, and it's just her and her mother in this beautiful English mansion estate. And they are being sent money by both Sherlock and Mycroft, but neither of the big brothers ever come back and say hello. They never really have anything to do with the upbringing of Enola, and are just assuming, because the mother is sending back all of this conversation, all of these letters, they're just assuming that Enola is being brought up a perfect young lady, as is proper in the Victorian age, and that the house is being well taken care of.
I do love that.
Being sent back to them.
You know, the conversation backwards and forwards is, well, we need some more repairs on the house. Oh, and Enola needs another tutor, and this needs this. That money is not going to any of that shit.
I think Mycroft is paying for, because he's the one who's gone the government route job, like fancy government important person, makes lots of money, and Sherlock is still kind of the outcast, casual detective freelancer. So that sort of explains why Mycroft is quite pissed off when he finds out that the money hasn't been appropriately dispensed as he would have seen fit.
I actually really enjoyed that sort of dynamic of the two brothers, because we've seen it a lot of times in other films and stuff. Like, Mycroft quite often shows up, and he's usually a very small character. Like, he's somebody that you go to, cop some shade from, and then he disappears off into the background to be rich. Whereas in this one, it was actually interesting seeing that dynamic. Sorry?
With Mycroft, I had a huge issue with Mycroft, which I don't know if anyone else did, and the actor Sam Claflin, who I know more from Peaky Blinders, where he plays a British fascist in government in the House of Lords, and I couldn't separate the two people in there, because I was like, Mycroft is a terrible person and we need to get rid of him immediately. And also I couldn't separate the character, him playing those two different characters. But he was malevolent enough. I just still couldn't believe it that he didn't do any working out, whereas Sherlock just pushed, I don't know, all the horse and carts around central London forever.
Mycroft in this was set up to be a bad guy from the very start, and he does that very well. He's just a nasty piece of sexist shit, but that is...
He's the patriarchy of the time.
Yeah.
They embodied in one character what the plot showed a lot of the female characters actively fighting against.
Yes. What is interesting, though, is that, and this is my history, like, clothing nerd coming out, is that the scene where we first meet the two brothers, where Enola goes to pick them up from the station, she is wearing a dress that would have been perfectly reasonable for a girl her age. And they brushed past her saying, you know, they were expecting someone dressed more like a lady, when 16-year-olds in the Victorian age would not necessarily have been expected to be, you know, primped and pampered as they seem to assume she would have been. So, not valid. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and admittedly, that is a detail of the film that I would never have picked up. But obviously, you know, the way that she's presented throughout the film is actually very important. Like, the going from being, you know, a wild, free, you know, bohemian virtually, to, okay, I have to dress like society tells me that I'm going to, but then I can still kick the shit out of people while wearing that. That was a moment for me, and I was like, fuck yes. I really enjoyed that. The costume didn't necessarily hold her back from anything, but in fact was actually a benefit to her.
Yeah, and that's something that shits me a lot in a lot of these period dramas, is the idea that corsets are very restrictive and are a symbol of the patriarchy and are designed to hold women back. When in reality, a corset, if it's properly made and well fitted, is more comfortable than the modern bra. So there you go, not actually a problem. We need to remember that women... throughout history, essentially, we went from having stays and pairs of bodies to corsetry. And all of those periods of time, women were wearing corsets to do everything. And they did just as much manual labor, if not a lot more than we do now, wearing a corset. And it was not an issue.
Yeah. And I like that at a different point in time in this, like, it even becomes a boon. Like, it's legitimate armor. You're like,
Look, let's not get too spoilery.
I really enjoyed that, this is a female detective story where she doesn't just use her smarts, that there is that physicality to a lot of the scenes, and that she has been taught to defend herself. And I have to say, I really enjoyed also Susan Wokoma in her role as, was it Edith?
Yeah.
And that entire content. I mean, I enjoy Susan Wokoma in basically everything I see her in, so I was super happy to see her in this, and would have liked to see her even more.
Sorry, you go.
You can.
Well, I feel like there is a whole storyline in this movie that we don't see nearly enough of, and it kind of gets pushed aside, and that's kind of the storyline that I was wanting, not this story about a young man who's
Fish boy.
yeah about a young lord. I would much rather have seen the story that was kind of an undercurrent that got hinted at, and we got glimpses of, and kind of went down the path a little bit, and then it just kind of got swept away.
I
think
kind
that
of
was-
love the foppish boy side thing, but I mean, yeah, the more interesting story was what is Enola's mum, or what are the Holmes people's the home mother. What was she doing? Which I was just that really nice little kind of taste of interesting story, but then it was like back to the foppish boy and breaking the fourth wall. Let's do that. And it's kind of like, damn it, now I want more. And that's probably precisely what they wanted to do, which is go, this is fun.
Yes and no. Like
We've got more there.
I definitely agree. I want more, but whether this was intentional or whether I in a way think it was almost a bit of a misstep. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed the film, but I feel like they've gone for a slightly easier sell, which is, Enola falls in love with boy, when in fact there is a much more gutsy story in there. And
I would even go further. Sorry to interrupt.
Go.
I'd go further and say that it was a massive misstep, because what they effectively do is turn this into a white male savior situation.
So we don't have to do suffrage anymore because we just saved to the foppish boy.
Oh, fuck,
Yeah.
actually, and now the more I think about that, and what's more, the foppish boy is the one who makes the decision at the end and makes the... Oh, man, okay. Sorry, I was about to get way
there's
spoilery.
a massive spoiler, but sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I backed away from the spoiler.
I have to admit, this is one of my issues with it as well, is that story was the more interesting story. But one of my biggest issues is when I first saw the trailer, for like weeks, looking forward to this, I thought it was a series. And
Yes.
it took until last week for me to go, like, how many episodes of Enola am I going to watch? And Leon's like, it's a movie. And I'm like, oh, no. There is
It's only
not
gonna be
enough
2
of
hours.
this already. But I feel like, for me, the way these two storylines intersected would have been ideal for the beginning of a series, because there's a huge step up in I guess what they're considering to be the B story, that feels like it could be an A story series arc, that doesn't really feel utilized or resolved by the time you get to the end of it.
Yeah, one of our commenters on Facebook, when saw that was reviewing this, wrote quite a good piece about it. It was Simon, who was a regular at in the house stuff, who runs a group called the Shit Movie Group, and I respect that. But he wrote a thing about it, just saying that it feels very much like a pilot. It's a very well made pilot. It's a good film, but it feels a lot more like it's setting up a bunch of characters to give us long-term payoff. And if you don't have that payoff, it actually feels like a bit of a fuck up. It's not as
Feels a bit
self-contained as it should be. Sorry?
Yeah, it's a bit soft.
It feels like we were offered the choice of two storylines, and we went with the more top line, soft, fluffy one, which just happened to partially solve the hard-hitting one in following that as well. But we miss so much. We really do miss so much. And that element of, this is the actual interesting story that we get just a taste of. That's what we want. And I feel like they would do well to create a spin-off series from this, and explore that side of things more, with, a little less of a focus on the young love story, which is not actually, that big a deal.
No, not that important. And I mean, I think they could have set themselves up really well, in the sense that you've now got, as you say, an A arc for an entire series. But then you've also got the potential for bringing in your Sherlock every now and then. Doesn't have to be there every episode. Could be a guest star once a season, or at the end of a season if you want to give it a boost or something like that. You've got a really great setting with her in London. You've got the potential for bringing in the mother and giving Helena Bonham Carter more to do. If you've got the budget for it, to me it feels like it makes a lot more sense as a series.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. I had some issues with overacting in this movie. There is a lot of hamming it up. Yeah, just calm down, take several chill pills. And from a number of the cast, actually, not just our lead. But at the same time, it made for some truly beautiful The Office style looks to the camera, which were highlights. And I don't know if they would have worked as well if the characters weren't as overacted. And I watched this with my good friend Echoing Artemis last weekend, and she actually pointed out that it kind of made sense for a character like Enola, who has grown up and been raised completely apart from all of society, to be a little bit more over the top.
Especially if your mum's Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah, a little bit eccentric.
Helena Bonham Carter has never once been accused of underacting anything.
Darling, no one pays to see you underact.
Yeah, so... it did brush me up the wrong way occasionally, but overall it did not ruin the experience.
I really enjoyed...
Peter, you go.
It's everyone. Everyone go. No, I really enjoyed Millie Bobby Brown in this. I know it was pushed to a certain limit, and for me, it kind of reached the limit of, fun film, fourth wall breaking, character building, but I found her quite kind of magnetic in that character, and that's one of the reasons I'm really disappointed it's not a series, because I would love to spend more time with her as Enola, being that and doing that and kicking some more ass.
Yeah. I would love to see all of the skills that she demonstrates learning be put to use at some point in time. Like, you see her, really kick the shit out of some people with the jiu-jitsu, and what's more, I really enjoyed the technique stuff that was going on there. But yeah, you see her doing all this other stuff, the archery and the just basically being a really cool, active person. And I'm like, oh, I want to see all that, please. More. Dion, what were you going to say?
I had some sort of an issue with the breaking of the fourth wall kind of stuff, because I was sitting there going, have we broken into something and she's going to start touring me around and then asking if I want to come and visit, and then it turns into some sort of ad for holidays. It's like, hey, I'm having fun in my adventure, you can come too, it's only $29.95 to catch a train to come down here, and you can stay here in this other... it felt very infomercially. And I was just kind of like,
yeah, where she goes, what should I do? And ask the audience, what should I do? And there was that moment where you go, fuck, is this another Bandersnatch? Are we meant to be doing a choose your own adventure here? Because
they
it
didn't
really
know.
did
Maybe they
feel
thought it
like
would have
that.
been.
That
Yeah.
would have been
I think
interesting.
Enola Holmes, an Enola Holmes like choose your own adventure would be fun.
I would be into that actually.
Yeah.
The more I
did
think
the-
about it, the more I'm totally down for that.
I did the Kimmy Schmidt one. Like I did Bandersnatch, which was just kind of like, oh, let's go weird. And then Kimmy Schmidt is funny. Like if you play that one along. So I can see this one as being like a fun adventure, and eventually, she saves the day or doesn't save the day or meets another foppish boy.
Well, wouldn't it be nice if she met a foppish girl too?
Wouldn't it be
I don't
nice
really
if we
like-
just met literally one other option?
Yeah, any other option.
Yeah.
I honestly loved Tewksbury, mainly because he was terrible at everything, and yet it was one of the core drivers of that
He
story.
actually wasn't.
I mean,
He
he
had
was great at
skills.
knowing flowers. It was like, I just want to go and do flowers. It's like, isn't that nice that there's just a sweet idiot boy represented here instead of the sweet idiot girl kind of thing? And I just kind of like that it was this big sort of change of pace. Like it was very much a Enola Holmes movie. Great. And then when they introduced him, I was like, oh no, this is going to be terrible. And then he was played so wet that I was like, I love it. I love that you're wet and terrible.
No,
Because
but
you
see,
can't-
Enola actually wouldn't fall in love with a completely useless wet boy. She fell in love with him
No,
because she realised that he wasn't completely useless.
Yeah,
And I kind of like
Yes,
that.
but also
I
think
enjoyed
you
the
could
role
never have
reversal.
fallen off.
I enjoyed the role reversal because I am sick of seeing useless women being rescued again and again and again and again and again. So the little role reversal was kind of nice, but I think it's a bit much to call him useless. He had some know-how.
He definitely, he was doing okay. He wasn't doing great, but he was doing okay for a young man born to privilege who has no idea how to take care of himself. He was actually taking okay care of himself for a little while there. I did appreciate, though, that they, it's not really a spoiler because they do it right at the start. They cut his hair off and he's like, well, it's just hair. And then they act as though his new haircut is something terrifying, when in fact it's a perfectly reasonable
yeah.
Korean haircut for a man. Like there's nothing weird about it. He just doesn't have the super long Prince locks.
Which I did have a brief moment of thinking, so hang on, is the long hair, considered to be slightly inappropriate, or is the short hair, because he looks completely fine with both? And
It was
Both
just a
of them are
disguise.
totally fine. Yeah.
yeah. And
Also, if Millie Bobby Brown can do that to hair with a knife,
fucking hell,
she's cutting everyone's hair from now on. Because,
sharpened on a rock.
Yeah. That was some impressive hairdressing.
Like the gradients and the cleanness up the side and everything. Yeah, I call bullshit on that.
I thought she was just going to give him a buzz cut. That's what she was comfortable with. Cut
Yeah,
all his hair off. Put him
See-
in a facility and make the Russians do it.
I want to give a shout out to somebody who we met many years ago, Bern Gorman. Good old Bern, who's either going to be in Torchwood or the creepy guy who menaces you in your movie. He is born to be creepy, menacing man.
Yes.
Not an unpleasant human being in person, but in movies, always creepy.
Always there.
And he was very creepy and menacing. I'd love to get into a bit of spoiler for this because there are the things that annoyed me about it. The things that annoy me the most about it are really kind of specific plot things where you just kind of like, ugh, that's lazy.
Do we have
Yeah.
a clip? Courtney?
We do. I just whacked a spoiler up
Right.
over the top of that just while we talked. Yes,
I'm not going to say I want to talk about spoilers and immediately chuck one out there.
I thought you might. I thought you were just like, fuck it, whatever.
No, Quinny will do it because he's Quinny.
Yes, because he's enthusiastic and excitable.
So
I'm not like the think quick thrower of spoiler territory. You know, I hate spoiling things for people. I'm going to give you a very wide berth on that.
Think quick, he dies. Oh,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Yeah, wow, that would be a shit thing to do. Okay, so before we do go to our clip, I reckon we should do some ratings because it's about that time. So
I
I'd
haven't
say,
seen it yet.
sorry.
if you haven't seen Enola Holmes, should you go see it, or just sit at home and see it? You don't have to go anywhere. You just sit on your couch. It's via Netflix. Have you got the Netflix thing?
No,
you
no.
don't, do
You have the Netflix thing? You've got the soundboard. Come on.
No.
No, I've just got a bunch of Henry Cavill quotes from The Witcher, so fuck it. I don't know. That's all I've got.
Good.
Yes, I would say yes if you've got a little bit of time. This is worth chucking on for a watch on the Netflix because we all need fun things right now, and it's fun.
100%. Definitely watch this over rewatching Queer Eye or whatever else it was that you were going to rewatch in your sad weekends alone.
Making the horrible faux pas that I made and watching The Adjustment Bureau for the first time.
Oh, is that bad? Right.
Very not good. Just watch Enola Holmes again if you have that urge.
Can I interest you in trying out the Fast and Furious franchise?
No.
I'm okay, thank you.
I hated 3 of them, and then I was down the rabbit hole.
I'm not going to be taking that rabbit hole journey, but I do recommend people take the Enola Holmes journey. You know, it's not perfect, but it's for me, it was a lot of fun. It was beautifully made, you know, lots of beautiful English countryside and fun costumes to look at, lots of nice character work, and a plot that happened.
Yes.
85. No, 87. 85 seems too low.
Okay. 87 from Peter. Beck.
I think you should definitely watch it. I mean, it doesn't cost you anything if you've already got Netflix, and for something that doesn't cost you anything, it is extremely good value.
True.
Like, genuinely. And I think that this is something that can be enjoyed by people no matter what age they are, as well. It is a very, very enjoyable family movie that is also not boring for parents. I will give this one a solid 78%.
That's on the Beck scale.
That's the Beck scale.
Yeah.
That's a backwards 87. There you go.
Yeah. Always remember that I enjoy your ratings, Beck, because like we can be quite effusive. And, you know, a lot of our ratings seem to tend towards the higher. You're always kind of like, no, I'm calling this as I see it.
Yeah, and of course, I change depending on my moods, which probably isn't fair.
If 100% is a perfect movie, then, like, you've got to admit that most movies are nowhere near perfect. And I think that Enola Holmes is actually a really good movie. The overacting kills it a little bit for me. The fact that the plot is very fluff, kills it a little bit for me. And then the fact that the plot being fluff leans heavily into the white male savior really took it down a fair bit more for me. But it is still a very enjoyable movie. So solid 78.
Okay. Dion.
4.
Again? You did 4 last week.
No.
You're repeating your joke.
No, I had a really fun time with Enola Holmes, like watching that. I liked everyone that was in it. As I said, it was beautifully kind of shot. It had a lot of interest and excitement, and it was just kind of one of those things that you wanted to watch, and that I would say, hey, you know, it's been a bit of a terrible year, but you should watch Enola Holmes. It's fun. I hope they make more of them. So, you know, I'll give it like 85. I liked it. I would watch them more. If they announced a sequel tomorrow, I'd be like, cool.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of the foppish boy.
You know
he can hang around. He can fund her adventures.
Yeah, I'm more than happy for him to stick around. I just hope that like they find ways to make him interesting and, you know, give him character growth and stuff. It'd be interesting to see a member of the House of Lords, you know, actually
I hate Mycroft and what sort of Victorian exercise program I need to do.
Mycroft is the patriarchy as opposed to hate it.
Yes.
That's one of the kind of lazy things about it, actually.
What that he is a little bit too obvious.
The reasons you're supposed to hate him are too obvious.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay, right. Not him, but the reason that he even exists. I'm going to go. Look, I'm going to go 82. I thought it was good fun. But yeah, there were those things in it that you kind of just go, okay. I didn't kind of come away at the end of it going, oh shit, that was amazing. I thought that was fun and that was good, and I was happy to see Millie, her name in the producing credits. That to me is a really cool thing, that somebody who's that young is driving her own bus, and saying, I want to tell these stories. And Peter, your eyes closed like you had a thought about that.
I don't have any thoughts. I don't know what the backstory to that is.
Oh, okay. There was just like a and I wasn't sure whether it was like, is it her money or is but to me it looks like this is something
I
that she's...
doubt it's her money.
Well, yeah, but is it something that she's going, okay, I want to be doing this kind of thing, and so she's pushing to make it happen? And if that's the case, awesome. That's a really exciting thing. I also want to give shout out to the marketing for this one, who have been doing a really, really cool activation for this around, I don't know whether it's just the UK or maybe around the world, but next to, have you guys seen this?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah. So next to statues of famous people like Charles Dickens and who was the other ones?
Mozart. There's quite a few of them, but Dickens and Mozart are probably the best known.
They have erected a statue of their sister. And then...
Not just their sister. They're incredibly accomplished, and often more accomplished than them, sister.
Yeah. And going, hey, you all know that guy, but here's this lady who, has done all these things and potentially, in a lot of cases, was as good, if not better, than that dude. And here's their accomplishments, and maybe it's time that they stop being in the shadow of that dude on a horse.
And it's generally until they had to give it up because they were a lady.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
Yeah, until they had to give it up because children. Yeah.
Children,
because
or...
it was not culturally acceptable for them to be so awesome.
Right, well, we will go to a clip... and
it is now.
Sorry?
But it is now.
Okay, right.
In some ways, yes. Not everywhere and not in all ways. Yeah. There is still an element of, well, you've reached your 30s. Go to pasture.
Yeah.
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 Only in Hollywood, right? That doesn't happen in the...
No, pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
Joke.
Yeah. Yeah, every time I hear about people, going, oh, I can't get the work anymore, or somebody, I keep thinking, I think it's the Amy Schumer clip, it's the comedy thing of Your Last Fuckable Day. It's like they're holding a party for the person another actress, and it's like, sorry, you've now hit 30 ? And today is your officially last fuckable day. You no longer get to be in all of the sexy roles. Now all of the Hollywood stops working for you. Sorry, bye. And it's a shit thing, and I hate the fact that y'all have to go with that.
But now we have another wonderful movie about women kicking butt, and that is always a good thing.
Damn straight. We're going to go to a clip, and then we will come back and talk about it in spoilfoilery details.
School foilery now.
Have a fucking clip.
Believe me.
Okay. You're being emotional. I was about to get fucking emotional with the audio.
I'm super emotional.
Yes. And now I put on the spoiler thingy because we're talking spoilers.
I decided to get backwards.
Spoilers.
For the spoilery time.
Yes. Yeah.
Backwards
I'm still trying to work out
time.
the audio, and I would like everybody in the chat to drop some Fs for Dion, who has been running this shit for past however long, and doing so through technical difficulties is very stressful and most unpleasant. So I'm going to give you my respect.
Montage. Even Rocky has a montage. Every day you get a little bit better.
That wasn't an invitation for you to sing stupid songs. It was just me saying, I feel your pain.
This is what happens when you put men in the driver's seat.
Well,
Total shit show.
Oh, fuck.
Wow. Okay.
Ow. Oh, jeez. Ow.
Okay.
Friends don't lie.
I'm not lying. And you were using my computer.
I was, but I can't use it this because I'm on Wi-Fi. And your computer doesn't have any Wi-Fi.
Oh, God. Anyway, let us talk about some of the plot points of Enola Holmes that may be considered a bit spoilery. So if you haven't
Did you
seen
just
the
say
film...
plot points?
I think I said plot points. Plot points. Apparently my mouth doesn't work.
Plot points.
Shut up!
Low point.
Okay, I gotta. This is super spoilery. I gotta say, my yell at the television moment was: at what point did you get the breastplate of the armor, somehow put it under your fairly fitted Victorian vest, somehow have it stay there, even though it was a breastplate just on its own, and then button your vest up again? Like,
Yeah.
how? What?
Yeah.
It's
That
very
was...
simple.
That was
I've done
lazy.
I've done it 100 times.
It was
That was
lazy.
lazy.
And it was
Or
obvious.
implies that he was wearing it the whole time, which why? Literally the entire movie.
It's the Victorian version of a bulletproof vest.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Though
Tewkesbury actually quite enjoys dressing up in ladies' clothing. Mother says I shouldn't do it, but I'm a lord and I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Also, Tewkesbury, I like the fact that they set it up and they're like, oh, here's a breastplate. So he's clearly just seen it and gone, that's a good idea. But then you're like, no, fuck off. How did you get that on so quick? That's just a load of crap.
Also, how did you take it apart and get it on so quick for someone who has literally never worn a suit of armor before in their life? Like, these things are not simple
No,
to put on.
no,
How
especially
did it
not...
stay there? It was only the front piece. Like, this, I assume it's heavy. Like, how? What? Anyway,
And not shaped to him. He was a little twig of a kid. Like, no.
Yeah, if there could have been any amount of time. Like, even if they'd just had him run out of the room or something, I would have bought it more. But as it was
really
like...
kind of broke that moment for me, and it also broke it that it was a repeat of something that they had already done. You know, the fake out chest injury being stopped by something that in that case had been adequately set up that was done in this movie, already.
And we already had a, not just an introduction, but we did have a really solid setup, as you said, with the corset. And a busk in a corset will probably actually stop a knife. You just have to be really unlucky or really lucky if you're the one wearing it, for them to actually stab right in the center for some reason. Why would you do that? I don't know. Because also that's not the best place to stab someone, because that's where you're going to stab into their bones.
Sternum.
Instead. You know what? Yeah.
Yeah. There's logic
Fine.
issues.
So yeah, that kind of broke it for me. Grandma was no surprise, like not exactly a plot twist.
No,
I
even
kind of
though they
just
tried
felt
to make
like-
her nice.
Yeah. Well, that was
the
the first clue, wasn't it?
Yeah. Sorry?
But by that end of the movie, I felt like it had gone on a little bit too long. Not too long that it was going to be a series, but too long on Foppish Boy Plot movie, and that I wasn't being surprised anymore, and, you know, I was a little bit done with it. And then we get that wrap-up with Mother, that is completely it's a nothing.
It's nothing.
It's
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't wrap up any of the setups that have happened for that storyline at all. Enola doesn't find her. She finds Enola, so Enola doesn't achieve the one thing that she actually set out to achieve in the film.
And she comes in and literally says something along the lines of, I've been working so hard for this thing, and then you came in and fixed it. Like...
With the boy.
Yeah.
She didn't fix it. She just saved this kid who happens to be the white dude who's going to come in and vote
For reform.
to save this thing. Like,
And that actually bugged me a little bit too, the fact that they're talking about, they're voting for reform Like, they're talking about the House of Lords and they're voting for reform, but that isn't in any way clearly marked as being aligned with suffrage or anything like that. It was...
No.
the two things were kind of... They used the one thing to describe this and something else to describe this, and you don't know that Helena Bonham Carter's whole cabal is trying to achieve the same thing. And in fact, I don't think they were.
No, it's very muddy. Also, you can't blow up just a couple of fireworks in a fucking shop full of fireworks.
Oh, that kills me. I was waiting for the big explosion.
Yes!
Yeah.
There were like
We were all waiting
barrels
for
of
the
gunpowder
big
in there.
Yeah, we saw what happened in... Was it... not Beirut? Where was the gigantic fucking explosion earlier this year?
In Lebanon.
It was in Lebanon.
Fertilizer.
I mean, but
Lebanon
yeah,
was
I
not
guess
fireworks.
barrels of gunpowder in Victoria, England are a little bit different, but it should have taken out a couple of blocks at least.
Exactly.
It should have. It was incredibly dangerous, and when she lit shit on fire, I was like, oh no, this is going to be big. And then it wasn't.
Yeah, and it felt like kind of shitty special effects at that point too.
Yeah.
You're like...
Well, I mean, that's very expensive, and she's a producer, so she had to make that call about whether or not they could go to lunch early or if they could just put it in post. But that was also one of the things that I really missed, and I was hoping that they'd expand more on, which is like Helena Bonham Carter's storyline. Her whole thing was vastly interesting. That was definitely something that I wanted to know more about.
Who are those women
Those
she's dealing
women.
with?
Yeah.
This fascinating woman who had two boys who were kind of famous and super smart, and then a girl that she raised pretty much alone, she'd made sort of a super smart prodigy. What a fascinating woman, who's then involved in things like, just basically sapping the government's money through her son to do revolution. And I was like, that's great. What a
fun
great
story.
show.
That's the story we wanted.
That's the story that we got teased.
Yeah. Although Rob Franklin has said in the chat, going back to the whole suit of armor on our foppish boy, that they thought he may have been wearing a corset. And I would have forgiven every fucking sin in this movie if he'd shown up wearing a corset and was like, it just looked like something I wanted to try. Like, I heard this was good armor, do you mind if I try the whole ensemble on next? Like, yes. The whole movie saved.
If it turns out that little Lord Fauntleroy is actually, somebody who may or may not enjoy dressing as a woman, or may be queer in some way, shape, or form, whole movie saved.
Perfect.
That would have fixed the entire relationship as well.
Chef's
It would have.
kiss.
Absolutely.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah, what a missed opportunity. Because then it wouldn't have been, we feel like we're repeating the same payoff. It would feel like, it was
a double setup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You would feel like, I wasn't expecting that payoff again.
Yeah, and all this other stuff that goes with it.
Yeah, a busk wouldn't have stopped a shotgun blast, but I would have said it would have, just for the story. Like,
yeah.
Yes.
And actually, how are we going with Enola Holmes' straight up murder of that guy at the end? Like, we all cool with that? I mean,
that was a big bit, and I was sitting with my friend at the time, and when it cut to that bit, we both went,
yeah,
audible awe.
Oh yeah,
I had the same reaction.
He did.
And like, that would be a big deal because she didn't actually mean to murder him, and that's got psychological consequences that we didn't visit at all.
But that's what the series is for, so
Is the series going to go dark and it's all about her post-traumatic stress from accidentally murdering?
Totally.
Yeah. And then she goes and sees her brother Sherlock, and they start getting into opium because he did that.
Yeah, like they both do a lot of laudanum, get all fucked up.
I think that would be like the quickest journey into the dark phase of a genre in all time.
I am here for it.
I mean, in the Sherlock, the other one, the British one with Cumbersnatch,
Bandersnatch.
he like they have the sister in there, Eunice Holmes.
Yeah.
But she's in a mental institution.
Yeah, she's a problem.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
Like in this one, that could quite easily, because I like that you said the time period where it's set. It's set in pre-Watson, so Sherlock knows he has a sister. But then I would like to see her, kind of being super smart and then hit like a point and then go a little bit, or maybe she's locked up because they think she's crazy. But
Well, the fun thing about Victorian times,
she's an overachieving
she wouldn't have to be
woman,
crazy
which
to be
means
locked
she is
up.
crazy.
No,
Yeah.
all she'd have to do is basically talk.
She's
got
going to end
ideas.
up being
Yes.
lobotomized.
I go down the other way, which is you seem to be too wild and rambunctious. I know it's this treatment that we have, which is
You have
basically
hysteria.
vibrate.
Yeah.
But you know,
Hysteria, my dear.
that's more fun to treat.
Yeah.
The
Good old hysteria.
thing is, they were almost going down that path with Mycroft. Like that, it wouldn't have been too far of a jump to get to that point. And I think that is a really dark sort of journey to take for a set of children's books that are being turned into a movie. But if you want to write your fanfic, Dion, go off.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm sure the internet has me covered. I don't need to write shit.
There is a
Someone else
grimdark
doing it
DC
now.
Universe version of Enola Holmes that is penned by Dion coming any second now. Peter, you're going to say something.
No way.
I was going to say, I
Really
did
Bobby
also
Brown
think it was like a little bit annoying that Mycroft was dimensionless patriarchy man, which left room for Sherlock to be wonderful, supportive, progressive man, which was fun and nice as a character point, that Sherlock ends up caring about Enola and being happy that she's kind of beat him to the conclusion. But at the same time, again, it's like a little bit lazy and a little bit like, oh, really? Like magical Victorian progressive man? Sure.
Yeah. I also feel like they had to do it because everyone has to love Sherlock. Like, you can't do an unlikable Sherlock when you're doing shitty Sherlock. You have to make him likable.
Because he's still a prick.
Magical Victorian progressive man is now my go-to phrase for anyone. It's like, oh, I want a manic pixie dream girl. I'm like, no, you don't. You want
a magical Victorian progressive man.
Oh, it's like
a man who listens to female-friendly chap-hop.
That's in every civil rights movie, like a historical movie about the civil rights movement, always has a non-existent white person that's like, oh, I'm completely reasonable and would love to help you out.
Yes.
Just so that, certain audiences will be like, I'm comfortable with this.
Yeah,
now.
white savior guy.
It's just a bit lazy.
Exactly. I also need to know what the hell was going on between Mycroft and that headmistress, because that was uncomfortable. Like, I was uncomfortable.
I love her in Killing Eve, but in this, I was like,
uncomfortable. Everyone was uncomfortable. No one was okay with this.
Yeah, she's wonderful in Killing Eve, but in here, I was just like that. Are you the raunchy older lady who is just like doing everybody?
I think that she was his teacher in high school, and she may have had a bit of a crush, and then he got his government position to get her into a better position, and then there's more. Okay, I'm down the rabbit hole.
More Dion fanfic is coming. There's a lot of Dion in
Yours is a lot more PG than the version I was going. When you started with she was his teacher in high school, I was totally on board for...
He's got people pulling plows in fields. He's got weird teacher-student relationship. Like, you do your thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'll read it, but you do your thing.
I want it to be rated explicit and all of the tags to be like hurt, comfort, and strangers to friends, and enemies to lovers. Just the whole thing.
Jesus.
No.
Wow.
And can I just lament one more time that Susan Wokoma was criminally underused, and why do we not have that show?
She was great. I loved it. I loved her. I love that whole idea that there was that well, I mean, because there was, but that we get to see the organisation that went into things like the suffrage movement, which was, it doesn't just happen overnight. It's forced upon you. Like, you have to be organised and do things.
I love that, but I also love that she's running a fucking jiu-jitsu class above a tea room. And it's just like, yes, abso-fucking-lutely. People were, not ashamed. There were people who were very proud to say, I'm a woman and I'm strong and I'm going to teach other women to be strong and capable.
Yes, in the privacy of my own home, where we're not going to be judged for it, because that's what they had to do.
Yeah.
I also want to point out that the costumes that they are wearing, I was very excited to see some sportswear for ladies that is historically accurate. Unfortunately, it was historically accurate to around the 1920s, not the late 1800s, but it was close enough. It was close enough.
For effort.
They gave it a go.
Yes.
Yeah, they weren't up there in their Lululemon. So,
Yes.
big points.
At least there were bloomers and stuff. We do love a good bloomer. I mean, there are a few...
You
go,
just
Dion.
interject? We're talking about period accurate. Yeah, I just want to interject with the period accurate stuff. I did happen to watch another documentary on Netflix just last night called Harold and Lillian, a Hollywood love story, which is about a storyboard artist and a film researcher, which is specifically about that nice thing and about how influential they were on Hollywood for decades. And it is amazing. But her job, Lillian's job, was to basically go, what sort of underwear would they have worn in that time period when there are no reference photos? And she would be the person who would literally go and find an old knitting circle of Jewish ladies to find out what sort of underwear they wore. And they were like, we had to hand sew them. And then she would get that done and they'd put it in the movie and people would be like, oh, wow. That's real. Anyway, that's lovely. A good one to go and find.
Yeah.
It's lovely. I'll put it on the Facebook.
As long as we're talking about accuracy in underwear, it was very nice to see Enola's dressing scene, and she's wearing a proper Victorian corset, which is very nice to see. And she's wearing a chemise underneath, because you would never, ever, 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 ever wear a corset next to your skin. So
because pinching?
Big points. No, well, partially, but mostly because how do you wash them?
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah.
Like, you can wash them, but it's much harder to wash a corset than it is to wash a chemise or a shift underneath it. So shifts got washed all the time, and you had like 4 or 5 of them, and corsets got washed infrequently, and you had like 1 or 2.
Right. I see Dion taking a lot of very good notes there.
Corsets there.
Corsets are amazing, Peter. I'll get you a nice one.
I actually know. I saw an advertisement recently for a local corset maker. Perhaps.
Oh, a corset here.
Social media relationship with you sent that sponsored content to me.
You know what? I am here to sing the praises of proper corsetry all day long.
What's better, whalebone or steel rib?
So whalebone, fun fact, not actually made of bone of whale. It's baleen, which is from
the baleen.
Wales. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So it's actually very flexible, and that is more similar in structure to our plastic boning or zip ties even that we have today than to steel or a super strong structure. The way that most corsets get their shape is not from the boning inside the channels. It is actually from the way that the pattern is cut and the different panels of the corset. So even if you didn't have any whalebone or steel boning in your corset, it would still hold the same shape and it would still sit you in. So
but not
there you
so
go.
Good with the stopping of the knives. I mean, I would definitely...
That is the busk, which is the front section of the corset where it actually does up in most Victorian corsets. Some of them do up, differently or don't have any opening at the front at all. But they would have been metal, likely.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the periodic table of corsetry. We're very, very excited to talk to you
today.
today.
It would have actually probably stopped the knife. Like, that would have been accurate. So there you go. This has been Bex Asides into Victorian underwear.
Yeah, you know what? This is a recurring series that I think we could bring back at any given time, and what's more, with great popularity. I thoroughly enjoyed the 1800s jiu-jitsu, which I was like, I've studied a bit of jiu-jitsu, and I was like, yeah, that's actually pretty fucking spot on. And I love the fact that she's not, they haven't grabbed a whole bunch of other martial arts and kind of flung them together and gone, yeah, let's get her doing all of these, let's throw a bit of Taekwondo in there and let's throw a bit of this, that, or the other. It was very much jiu-jitsu. It was a lot of locks and grabs and floor work, and I was like, fucking nice work. This makes sense.
I did feel like it set us up with a very predictable plot point.
Oh, the stupid fucking...
To do the corkscrew,
yeah.
and she can't do it. Of course she's going to manage it at the end.
Yeah.
However, I don't think any of us were expecting it to be quite as effective as it ended up being. Because that was a lot.
It was.
I don't think she expected that.
No.
Yeah, I enjoy. Because it was so obvious, and you're like, "Oh, come on, we get what you're doing with it." And then for it to finish with that, you're like, "Oh shit!" I think that's they've managed to save what was potentially a really, really hokey shit bit by making it enough of a sting in the tail that you went, "Oh," so you'd forgive the rest of it.
Did they save it though, or did they just warp it?
Good question. I don't know.
Because this is meant to be a movie that kids are watching as well. Yeah. So I don't know. That was a lot, and they kind of just brush it off too.
It's completely it is not mentioned. It's
the fact that Enola has murdered a person. Whatever.
I mean, self-defense, but still.
Yeah.
Still manslaughter.
Self-defense, but a woman murdering someone who was working for a very powerful family. She is lucky that the mother was on her side, because otherwise she would have been fucked.
Yeah. Yeah. What do we think of the whole thing of you're being emotional? This is a line that I've noticed a couple of times used in Captain Marvel, and then here again of Sherlock talking to her and saying, "You're being emotional." Is that now becoming a kind of a plot point
it's
that is
tropey now?
Yeah.
But, I mean, I get why. It's a thing because it is a thing. It's a thing because it's a thing. But then it's so much a thing that you're kind of fucking shut up about the thing.
Yeah. It's a thing that women in general get told a lot, because apparently women are the only people who have emotions, or are able to act on them. But I feel like in Captain Marvel, it's used in much the way that we see a barbarian's rage in Dungeons and Dragons, in that you can harness that emotion and use it to your own good and your own gain. Whereas here it's just kind of brushed off as more of a joke or a jab that kind of gets flipped around onto the opposite sex. But it's not really... I don't know. It wasn't amusing to me in this movie.
I wasn't even sure whether it was meant to be
amusing. It's just a bit
amusing.
lazy and obvious. The theme and tones were very clear. So it does become a little bit on the nose after a while when those kind of extra tropey moments are thrown in there.
Yeah.
It's 101 gaslighting women.
Yeah.
Gaslighting 101.
And let's
Tell her
be honest,
she's emotional.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to take that class. Well, nobody that I know anyway.
Most of the people who would already have it innately built into them.
Which is terrifying.
I mean, just go to any film with a man in it, arguing or yelling, and then just stop the scene and be like, "You're being too emotional.
You can't handle the truth." Sorry.
You're being too
emotional.
Being emotional. I'll need you to calm down, sir.
Yeah.
You're being too emotional.
I feel like you're getting a bit hysterical.
Yeah. Here's Johnny. What you need to do is go and have a big wank, and then the hysteria will be gone and everything's fine. Admittedly, I think The Shining probably would have been solved if he'd just gone and had it. Anyway, moving on.
Wow, this is Winnie's fanfic that he's writing.
Not proud.
Yep.
Okay.
Was there anything about Enola Holmes that you didn't like, apart from the stuff that we've already mentioned? Were all the...
I feel like we've mentioned a fair bit.
Last half hour has been shit that we didn't like.
Well, Okay, what were the best things about it? What's the bit you're going to take away and tell your friends? Like, you need to watch it because of this.
I really liked her stuff to camera. You know, I know a lot of people don't like the fourth wall break stuff, but I found her to be really like engaging, and even though there was a lot of exposition that was done in that way, which I think is really lazy, I think she has enough personality and enough kind of joie de vivre to kind of make you go, I'm enjoying spending time with this person. And I really kind of like the fact that she got given so much more to do in this. You know, like, you look at Stranger Things for 3 years now, or 3 seasons, she's kind of been sidelined into not doing much or not saying much and doing a lot with just looking. You look at Godzilla, and, you know, she was there to be menaced by a Godzilla. This, I felt like this is something that she's actually got something to do. And I enjoyed that.
And she got to use her accent.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought she was good. I don't know. It felt very heavy on the overacting for me. So she wasn't my favorite part of the movie. And if it had just been her, sort of as a redemptive quality to it, I wouldn't necessarily be recommending it. I think that it was a lot of things that came together to make it really as enjoyable as it was, and I don't know that she played a massive part in that, but maybe I'm being too critical.
We are a review show, you're allowed to be.
That's the point.
Peter.
There was a lot of overacting.
Okay. Favourite bits, anything that you want to sort of leave as a takeaway, Pete?
You know, I kind of forgive the overacting because it does feel a bit like children's content. And, you know, that was the original audience for it. I don't know, I don't think that I have a favourite bit. I just thought that it was fun to watch and not taxing on my emotions. And that's nice these days, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something that doesn't make me feel anything.
Anything at all, really, which is totally fine because you just have fun for a couple of hours.
Yep.
And then that's nice. And then you're done.
That's why I've been playing Spider-Man so much.
Perfect.
Yep.
I do think that head caving in scene at the end kind of really took away from the kids' movie value of this for me. But maybe I'm too protective of young children. I don't know. Maybe they don't mind seeing someone's head get rammed in with a pine cone statue.
Yeah.
Look, to be honest, I'm not sure I would show this to my niece, who is 4, although I would love to be able to show her a fun movie about a female protagonist, which I probably would have been able to show her except for that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, look, okay, she's got the puzzles though. She's good at word games and deducting things.
But it doesn't actually lead to anything.
Yeah.
Her word game fixing doesn't lead to anything. And also, why didn't she just walk out of that school? Like, she could have at any point. Anyway.
Sorry, that is what we didn't discuss. Why the basket?
Yeah. Like, why didn't she just walk out? Like, and why did she wait for him to show up? Like, just leave.
Yeah, just go.
Steal the car. You did it anyway.
And she got a bunch of money from her mother, which then her brother stole back off her.
Yeah, why didn't she just give him like a £5 note and be like, "Soz, I spent the rest, but just keep it in your tip." Like, that's what they're there for.
Why not just say you spent it all and give him nothing? He's not going to go rooting around in there.
Exactly.
Probably.
Yeah.
And if he does, it's sexual assault. Not that that means much in the Victorian era.
Victorian era.
Like, he's not going to do it on camera.
No. There's a big camera
You know
right
the
there.
camera's there. You know the camera's there. You've been talking to it this whole movie. He's not going to root around in your corsetry while the camera's there.
Somehow, even this review has become vaguely metatextual. And now we're talking
honestly,
to
why
you.
didn't you just ask the film crew to help her? Jesus, like,
Yeah.
that would have solved a lot of problems.
Genuinely. I mean, when she's being waterboarded and she, like, winks at the camera, like, why weren't they helping?
It's like
Yeah.
watching freaking Bear Grylls. Like, I'm sorry, there is a crew there.
Yeah. You don't have to drink your own piss. They've probably got Powerade for you. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, I love the idea of the crew that's hanging out with Bear Grylls looking at him going, well, I'm not going to fucking go near him. I mean, from now on, he smells funny.
So I feel like we're done with that.
Yeah, I feel like we might be, yes.
Yeah, Enola Holmes. Watch this film if you like watching Bear Grylls drink piss.
It was thoroughly enjoyable. I will watch it again.
I sincerely hope that there is a sequel or a series of sequels or a series as a sequel. I would like
Bring
to
out
go
the
back
Edith
to this.
spin-off,
Bunch of
and I'll be very
2-hour-long
happy.
feature length.
I just need to point out, just before we finish up, that someone absolutely insane and incredible has already tweeted to us a picture of their new shirt, which says, "Bring me a magical progressive Victorian man," and has a Victorian man silhouette alongside it. So
Thank you.
Perfect.
that is by Tiki
I will
Doll.
buy
Thank you,
one.
Tiki Doll. You are incredible.
That's incredible. I am...
Oh, Panda Attack.
Is it...
Panda Attack.
Thank you.
Thank you,
That's
Panda Attack.
so goddamn good, and I cannot wait to buy that shirt. I don't know how I'm going to buy that shirt, but, you know...
Magical Victorian progressive man.
That's so good. So good. Okay. I think we should wrap it up there. Keep an eye out on the
What are we
social...
doing next week?
I was about to do a
Well,
thing
yeah,
that
okay,
said,
yeah,
keep
yeah.
an eye on the socials and find out what we're doing next week, because we didn't decide that. I mean, we could look at Utopia. I mean, we could also ask the audience, but we know they're just going to say Avatar: The Last Airbender. Yes, I'm looking at you, Rob.
The TV show or the M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong?
They always
Well,
want
the
TV
second thing
show.
doesn't exist apparently, so I'm assuming they mean the TV show.
Yes, correct.
I don't understand the other words
Shyamalan.
that you said.
Yes. So,
Alright.
yes. He's
Should
always
have
going to
the
say
NBN,
Avatar.
but-
Okay, so Predakangaroo is saying definitely the UK Utopia. If you want to, you can actually find our review of the UK Utopia that we did nearly 4.5 years ago on the website.
Yeah, it's on the website. If you go to the periodictableofawesome.com and just type in Utopia, you will get it. It's right there.
Yeah, it's one before we even numbered the shows. It was one of the first 5 podcasts we ever did. And
It's great.
it is super weird. And as I said to everybody beforehand, I'm not sure I'm in a mental headspace to be able to do Utopia. Because it's about a pandemic and people dying, and it's dark as hell. So, I don't know. As I say, keep an eye out on the
Always got the
socials.
Ted Lasso option if you guys want a televisual bubble bath. I'm just saying.
I'm actually very keen to experience this bubble bath of which you speak. And I have
And
a
also,
feeling...
someone else has said June, and I'm like, sure, June is definitely there. We've done June as well. We've done
Yeah.
a lot of podcasts. We did June in Perth with Magnus.
Yes, we could do that. Personally, something I would love to talk about is Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous, which is not... And I look at all of you go, what?
No, I know of it. I'm just not interested.
Which is a shame, because it's actually really entertaining. It's a surprisingly good aimed at tweens animated series set alongside Jurassic World. And it's surprisingly violent too, which is great. So, yeah, anyway.
It's the audience for this animation that is violent.
It is, well, I say violent, it's clearly aimed at the young teen to mid-teen kind of audience. Like all of the characters.
Why are we creating such violent content for our youths?
Because it's fucking Jurassic Park. You know what happens in Jurassic Park, right? Dinosaurs eat people.
Yes,
in
but
this,
it's aimed at our youth.
yes, well, true. Yes.
You
Anyway,
get away with it in anime by saying anime is not actually for children.
well, this one's for teenagers. They're not really children, are they?
Oh, the Predacanga says, are the dinosaurs anthropomorphized?
No, that's the weird part about it. Like the kids are all kind of Pixar style, smooth shaded and everything like that. The dinosaurs are terrifyingly realistic. It's very strange, but it works.
Oh, good.
Anyway, we will be keep an eye on our social media channels, and also please follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, like us on Facebook, do all those things. Send us an email, for God's sake. Send us an email or a voicemail. Sorry, Dion.
Follow us on Twitch.
Yes.
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 Send us a Ko-Fi if you've got... Look, I mean, honestly, this day and age, I don't know if anyone's got any money at all, ever, forever. Dip into your superannuation and throw us tuba. Don't do that.
Don't.
Terrible.
Bad advice.
Never do it. You shouldn't do it.
All right. Well, thank you. I have been Quinny.
I've been Beck.
I've been Peter.
Dive in!
Just every time. I have been Peter.
Excellent.
Apparently.
Dion doesn't give a
Leon
fuck
doesn't
anymore.
give a shit. No.
Bullshit. You're a dick. No.
There you go. I've done me. I've been Dion.
And we will see you next time. Thank you and good night.
Night.
Are they gone? Can I stop smiling?